Willow Creek, a town lost in time, nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering willows. Life was simple, peaceful. People knew their neighbors, they trusted the quiet rhythm of their days, but that was before the darkness came, before Willow Creek became synonymous with terror. The first sign was the disappearance of Old Man Hemlock, a recluse, some said, but he was still one of their own. Then came the whispers, strange noises in the night, shadows moving in the woods. Fear began to weave its way through the town, an unwelcome guest. The townsfolk, once so trusting, started to eye each other with suspicion. The once peaceful nights were now filled with dread. Something was terribly wrong, but no one could have imagined the nightmare that awaited them. The nightmare that would soon transform Willow Creek from a haven of peace into a hunting ground. Days turned into weeks. The disappearances continued, each one more unsettling than the last. The sheriff, a portly man named Jebediah, tried to calm the growing panic. He spoke of wild animals, of drifters passing through, but his words rang hollow. Even he couldn't ignore the chilling truth. Something sinister had settled upon Willow Creek. The townsfolk, once so eager to help each other, now barricaded themselves indoors. Fear had become their only companion. Children were warned to stay close. Strangers were met with suspicion. The very air seemed thick with dread, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Then came the whispers of something monstrous lurking in the woods. Something that preyed on the unsuspecting, something that craved human flesh. The rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by fear and uncertainty. And with each passing day, the line between rumor and reality blurred, until the horror became all too real. It began with a blood-curdling scream that echoed through the night. A scream that pierced the stillness of the night, shattering the peace. Then, an eerie silence. A silence more terrifying than any scream, a silence that seemed to hold its breath. The next morning, the townsfolk awoke to a scene of unimaginable horror, a nightmare made real. The Miller family slaughtered in their home, their bodies mutilated, partially devoured. Panic gripped Willow Creek, spreading like wildfire. The gruesome killings were the work of no animal, but something far more sinister. This was the handiwork of something evil, something human, yet monstrous. The sheriff, his face ashen and eyes wide with fear, tried to maintain order, but the town was on the verge of chaos, teetering on the edge of madness. Then came the whispers of the butcher, a name uttered in hushed tones, a name that carried dread, a name that struck fear into the hearts of even the bravest souls, a name that haunted their dreams. He was a phantom, a specter of death, moving through the shadows unseen, said to be impossibly strong with a strength that defied human limits. His face hidden behind a grotesque, grinning mask, a mask that seemed to mock his victims. The butcher became a symbol of terror, a creature of nightmare, a harbinger of carnage, and Willow Creek was his hunting ground, a place where fear reigned supreme. The killings escalated, each more brutal than the last. The butcher seemed to revel in their terror. His methods were becoming more twisted, more depraved, as if he was feeding off the fear he instilled in the hearts of the townsfolk. Leaving behind macabre trophies, body parts arranged in grotesque displays, a warning, a taunt, each scene more horrifying than the previous, a grim testament to his growing madness and cruelty. Willow Creek was his, and its people his prey. The townsfolk, once vibrant and full of life, were now shadows of their former selves. The joy and laughter that once filled the air had been replaced by a suffocating silence. Fear consumed them, paralyzed them. They huddled in their homes, afraid to venture out, even in daylight. The butcher's presence was felt everywhere, an omnipresent shadow that loomed over their lives. The once bustling streets lay deserted, the air thick with the stench of death and decay. The whispers of the butcher were everywhere. The town had become a ghostly echo of its former self, a place where hope had withered away. His legend grew with each passing day. Some whispered of ancient evil, of a curse upon the land. Others clung to the hope that it was just a man who could be reasoned with or perhaps even stopped, a man who could be stopped. But as the body count rose, so too did the chilling realization. This was no ordinary man. The authorities were baffled, their efforts futile against the relentless tide of horror. This was something far more sinister, something inhuman, an entity that thrived on chaos and despair, leaving a trail of nightmares in its wake. Section 5, The Skinwalker's Curse, Unveiling the True Evil. One moonless night, a group of desperate townsfolk, led by the blacksmith's son Caleb, decided to fight back. They had endured enough terror and loss, and their resolve was unbreakable. Armed with whatever weapons they could find, they set out to hunt the monster. Their hearts were heavy with fear, but their determination was stronger. They tracked him to an abandoned mine outside of town. The mine was a place of dark legends, a place no one dared to enter, a place whispered to be cursed. Inside the mine, they found a scene of unimaginable horror. The air was thick with the stench of death. Body parts littered the floor, blood stained the walls. The sight was enough to make even the bravest among them tremble. And in the center of it all, a figure, tall and imposing, wearing a mask made of human skin. The very sight of it was nightmarish. Caleb, his heart pounding in his chest, raised his rifle and fired. The sound of the gunshot echoed through the mine. The figure staggered but did not fall. Instead, it let out a guttural roar, a sound that seemed to come from the depths of hell itself. A roar that sent shivers down their spines. It was then that the mask slipped, revealing the true face of their tormentor. The sight was more horrifying than they could have imagined. It wasn't human. It was something else, something ancient and evil. A face that belonged to a creature from their darkest nightmares, a skinwalker, a creature of Native American legend, a shapeshifter who wore the skin of its victims. The townsfolk realized they were up against an evil far greater than they had ever known. Section 6. Trapped in a nightmare. The town's descent into madness. The revelation of the skinwalker shattered what little hope remained. This wasn't a nightmare they could wake up from. This was their reality. A reality where ancient evil stalked their streets, where their friends and neighbors were nothing more than prey. Fear turned to paranoia. Suspicion ran rampant. The townsfolk turned on each other. Accusations flew. Friendships dissolved. The tight-knit community of Willow Creek unraveled thread by thread. The skinwalker, reveling in their terror, continued its reign of terror. It moved through the shadows, unseen, unheard, striking at will, picking them off one by one. The townsfolk were trapped in a nightmare of their own making, a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. Section 7. A glimmer of hope. The fight for survival. Caleb, haunted by the horrors he had witnessed, refused to give up hope. He had lost friends, family, but he clung to the belief that they could defeat the skinwalker. He delved into ancient texts, seeking a way to defeat the creature. He learned of its weaknesses, its vulnerabilities. He rallied a small group of survivors, those who still clung to hope. They were farmers, shopkeepers, teachers, ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, united by a common enemy and a desperate need to survive. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew they had something the skinwalker didn't. They had each other. They had courage, and they had the will to fight for their lives, for their town, for their very souls. The price of freedom, sacrifice and loss. The survivors, armed with the knowledge Caleb had gathered, devised a plan, a desperate gamble. They would lure the skinwalker into a trap that would exploit its weaknesses, a trap from which it couldn't escape. The plan was fraught with risk. It required sacrifice, but they were willing to pay any price for freedom, for a chance to reclaim their town, for a chance to avenge their loved ones. The night of the confrontation arrived. Tension hung heavy in the air. The survivors, their hearts pounding in their chests, lay in wait. They knew that this could be their last stand, that many of them might not survive the night. Ashes to ashes, the destruction of Willow Creek. The skinwalker, sensing the trap, hesitated, but its hunger, its bloodlust overwhelmed its caution. It lunged. The survivors sprang their trap. Fire engulfed the creature. Its screams echoed through the night. The battle was long and brutal. Lives were lost. But in the end, the skinwalker was vanquished. Its ashes scattered to the wind. Willow Creek was free, but at a terrible cost. The town, once so full of life, now lay in ruins. Homes reduced to ashes, streets littered with debris, the air thick with the stench of death. Willow Creek was no more. It was a graveyard, a monument to the horrors they had endured. The legend lives on, the skinwalker's shadow. The survivors, those who remained, abandoned Willow Creek. They carried with them the scars of that terrible night, scars that would never fully heal. They scattered to the winds, haunted by the memories of what they had lost. The legend of Willow Creek lived on, whispered in hushed tones, a cautionary tale, a reminder that some evils never truly die. Some say the skinwalker's spirit still lingers in those woods, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to cross its path. A shadow lurking in the darkness. a constant reminder that evil can wear many faces, and that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we create ourselves. A haunting reminder, evil never truly dies. Years have passed, but the memory of Willow Creek remains, a chilling reminder that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places, that even in the quietest corners of the world, evil can flourish. The story of Willow Creek is a warning, a testament to the power of fear, and a haunting reminder that some wounds never truly heal. The skinwalker may be gone, but the legend lives on. A whisper in the wind, a chill down your spine, a haunting reminder that evil never truly dies. It merely sleeps, waiting for the right moment to awaken, waiting for the next Willow Creek.